Welcome in, everybody. James Phillips here. This is the first edition of the Coach Bryan Moore Show. Coach Moore is joining us every week this football season. The Daily Mountain Eagle now is hosting it, and we'll typically have another co-host is Greg Tinker. He couldn't be here today, but next week he'll join us. Coach, welcome in.
Thanks for having me. This is great. This is a great event. Appreciate it.
Let's just get right into it and talk about a couple things that have happened over the last several weeks. Had the scrimmage last week, and then had silent auction. Huge community support at both those events. Just what can you say about how the Jasper community showed up?
Wow, it's been unbelievable. Year two is so much better as far as knowing people and being able to push events like Thursday and Friday out there. Those were both community events to get them involved. Because as you go through the season, people come to the games, but there's not a ton of interaction with the team, outside of just supporting the kids. But I thought it was really good. The Meet the Vikes scrimmage went off without was great. Milo's, did a great job with that, and that was a good look for us. It was an introduction for people to see our new stadium, basically. I mean, it's been upgraded in a way that I never could have imagined, thanks to our administration and really the community. But it was great. Thursday night went good. We didn't have any injuries. That's a big part of that, being able to scrimmage. And we played it more like an A-Day than I've been a part of. So we wanted to have communication with our coaches and with our staff. And I thought that went really well. Sideline organization was good. And then Friday night was big. It was a big event. We had almost 300 people at the Civic Center. And Coach Dye spoke, and that was really cool, telling those old Auburn, Alabama stories. And it was a great way to raise money for our program. And we did that. So I was really, really pleased with Thursday and Friday and excited about this Thursday.
Coach, I had people rolling, I think, a few times. And I told somebody he's the only person who could talk kind of bad about the Bear and get away with it. Right?
Well, he knew him firsthand.
Right.
So, that was cool. And those guys, are unbelievable. The stories between Auburn, Alabama, and it's just a lot of fun for people to hear. So I thought he did a great job of playing both sides. You're either Auburn or Alabama, and that was a lot of fun to hear.
All right, Coach, you mentioned the new turf field and the upgrades to the stadium. So go into a few specifics about what all we could see different at Cairo Gambrell this year.
Well, it's been a lot of changes. I always tell the story about going, the first time in the middle of January in the rain and getting to the field house for the first time, and you're always eager to see. I had seen the facilities in my interview, but not in depth. Not that it was mine. Not that I was going to be there and try and help those areas. And so I went up there, and it just needed an upgrade. It needed a facelift. The Golden Viking area, the inside of the field house. I always say the first thing to work on is the kids' areas. Locker room painting and those kinds of things, weight room upgrades and those things. And then obviously last year, as everyone saw, the playing surface issues. There's no, we talked that one to death, but going through those 3 rounds of playoffs, I told the seniors from last year, the Russ Greens and those guys said, well, I appreciate all your work this past year because you got us a new field.
Right.
You guys playing as well as you did and hosting 3 rounds of the playoffs got us this new field. And the turf is everything we thought it would be. In my opinion, it's the nicest, prettiest turf field in Alabama.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable the way that we incorporated the black. Like every detail was everything's on purpose.
Right.
Everything we picked out, all the design phases, we did that thinking about, what matters to Jasper, what are our colors, and we didn't want to do anything silly. We wanted it to look classy.
Right.
And it was interesting because we were a little bit concerned because some people that have always played on grass, sometimes, they don't want to change from grass. But every single person I've talked to has been so complimentary about the field and the way that we kept it. We put Jasper in both end zones. That's on purpose.
Yeah.
It's Jasper. That's who we are. And those kinds of things. We made that happen. And then as far as the stadium, we had a lot of parents that chipped in and a lot of administrators that chipped in and, helped us get things painted. A little paint goes a long way.
Yeah.
Beds on each side of the stadium that had looked horrible and overgrown. We had those redone. The city of Jasper helped us with that. So it's really a collective group effort, to get those things done. And all those things matter. Even the upgrades in the bathrooms in the stadium. It's hard to walk into, and you've been to a million stadiums yourself.
Right.
You walk into somebody's bathroom and it's trashed
Yeah.
and awful. And you just know that's a reflection of that school.
Yeah.
And we wanted to upgrade those things. And because, look, it doesn't matter what we're doing. It doesn't matter what bathroom we're talking about, if one that gets used 5 times a year, we want that to be classy and reflect the way that we feel about it and the pride that we have in our program, and that's what our stadium shows now.
Right. Well, what about the Jumbotron?
Man,
That's
is
unbelievable, right?
It's unreal. You know, what was cool is that at the Meet the Vikes, you know, they were getting it up. Like, you could see the crane and everything, raising that thing up. You know, it's just an incredible investment. We thank Pinnacle Bank for that, for helping with that, and you know, in our school system as well. But that's something that our kids, that's a player thing. That's a fan and, you know, atmosphere type thing.
Well, I heard the kids have already like recorded their, you know, they'll say their name and what position they play, that sort of thing before the game starts.
Oh, so cool. All of them, you know, got to do that and the starting lineups and those kinds of things. And it was just really neat to see them go through that. And Luke Sortino, who helps out, has really taken that. And it's impressive that we have kids like Olivia that are in our school that are going to help us with the Jumbotron, and because, you know, when you do that, that's great, but then you have to operate that thing.
Right.
You know, it's like a mass production to put this thing on and to play replays and to put your commercials up. But obviously, it's a marketing thing for us as well.
Right.
It's a way for people in our community to advertise with the Jumbotron. But it's just such a great thing, and it just adds to the stadium. I mean, it looks like a college atmosphere out there.
And you mentioned some of the kids. A lot of people probably don't realize that you guys have a full tech team, and it's all made up of kids from the school.
We do. We have a film crew and tech crew that when I got here, there were like kickers filming practice.
Yeah.
It's like, well, y'all need to be kicking at practice.
Yeah.
So let's find us some kids that don't do that, that want to be part of the program, and they're a huge part. I mean, they are. You know, I got them the other day pretty bad because they didn't have the drone in the air when I wanted it in the air.
Right.
And I said, you have a job to do too. Just like us, we're here practicing. You got a job to do. And so I'm going to hold them to the same standard as those players. You know, and so it's just a collective effort to make this thing run the way that we want it to, and we're headed there. I mean, it's really cool to see the growth. It's hard to measure it, you know, the growth in a year, but there's been a tremendous amount of growth.
Right. Let's go into talking about the coaching staff this year. Not many changes, but if you can run through each coach, what position they're coaching, and then if I know there were a couple of small changes.
Sure. Well, defensively, Kyle Butler will be our defensive coordinator. Kyle comes to us. He was at Walker High School, went to Hueytown with Scott Manziel, and then is back with us as our defensive coordinator. He'll coach our inside linebackers. Darius Gilbert is our assistant head coach and D-line coach. He's done a tremendous job. Guys that know Darius, he's a very calming influence at times on a very young coaching staff.
Right.
And that's good to have as well, a guy that's been a head football coach, and those guys are valuable. He's really done a great job. Cody Brown coaches our outside linebackers. Cody's in year 2, which gives me a lot more comfort in Cody. You know, what can he handle? And you know, Cody didn't get the opportunity to go through the junior high. Cody started at the varsity level. Yeah. And that was out of just necessity to have him up there with us. And so he had to, you know, like baptism under fire right there. I mean, he had to go through it and learn, and did a great job. In the back end, Clint Crumpton comes back. Clint was at Pleasant Grove. We got him in July last year, so that's another thing, like having Clint a full year. He handles all the graphics that people see. Clint puts those out, really does a good job. And then Jarrett Tuggle will coach our corners. Jarrett played here and has really done a good job. Helped Tyrone with the receivers last year, slid over to corners this year, and really do a good job.
Much of a difference on the defensive side, like as far as scheme and the way you're going to see the Vikings play this year?
I think it'll be very similar. You know, basically the way I say it, and I told in defensive coordinating interviews, I brought the guys in and said, I will set the parameters of what we're going to do, and then you work within those parameters. It's your show. I mean, I'm an offensive guy. That's how I came through this whole thing, and but I have a philosophy that I want to, you know, that we want. Basically, for us, we're bare front, which is an odd front. We have 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, and 4 DBs, and we want to end up being 1 high, so 1 safety. So we want to spin a safety. That's not a secret. You know, everybody is aware of that.
They're going to see that.
That's not a. We're not giving anything away by that. Within that, Kyle has brought some multiple looks. You know, offensively, you know, we want to be really multiple. And then defensively, same thing. You don't want to line up in the same thing every time because, you know, if I'm calling plays and I know what they're in, then I'm going to bomb them. You know, they better change it up a little bit. You know, and so Kyle really has done a good job of bringing some new ideas and has done a tremendous job with discipline. That was the thing that I wanted to see is us play hard, be tough and physical, and then be really disciplined on defense. And Kyle's brought that. Kyle's a tough guy. And his coaches have bought into that. He's extremely obsessive about it, and that's what you want. He obsesses over every detail, from the socks they wear to the gloves they wear, because all those things matter. And he's really done a good job with that defensive group, and I'm just excited. He's excited. This is his first game Thursday night as a defense coordinator. And for a lot of people, that would bring some anxiety, but he's a confident guy. and he's a guy that'll do a great job. On the offensive side, Philip Bailey comes back. This will be year 3 with me. He was at Eufaula with me 1 year and then came here. And so I have a lot of comfort with Philip, and he's a really sharp guy. Did a tremendous job. If you saw us play last year offensively, we were very productive, efficient, didn't turn the ball over, and that's what you look for.
Yeah.
You know, live with your running game and make, of course, Michael Creer was special and that sort of thing, but he did a good job of keeping us out of negative plays. And he's an O-line guy, and he's the best I've ever been around. Yeah. Genuinely the best. And so he really does a good job with that. Patrick Darwin comes back. I think this is Pat's 8th year here, which is cool, to have a guy that's been around, and he's excited. He coaches tight ends and fullbacks, and Stone and Patrick have a good relationship, and he's done a really good job, with us. And he's a guy that could slide into that O-line role. He's a guy that has done that, and that helps. He and Bailey work together well. Ryan Pugh comes in as an assistant coach, and he played for us last year and wants to coach, and is so smart and will really help Coach Bailey as more of a graduate assistant, so to speak. Tyrone Prothor comes back his 2nd year with us. Really helped our receivers. Cole Bonner, Tyler Morrow, Burt, those guys had a great year. Pro had a lot to do with that. And then Christian Matthews coaches our running backs. Christian has done a really good job. Smart guy. He'll also coordinate our special teams. I have given him so much more leeway. I always tell the quote from Jim Harbaugh. He says, when you get somewhere, delegate nothing.
Right.
Control everything. Be a control freak.
Yeah.
And so now, year 2, I'm able to kind of slide those responsibilities to guys that are smarter than me and can do it better than I can do it. And so I continue to delegate roles, and that feels good too, that I can be more of a head football coach and not dig into one side of the ball or neglect one side of the ball. And so those coaches, and then I should mention Cole Bonner too. Cole will help us with the receivers, and our staff has grown. It just has really grown, and people want to be around it. They gravitate towards success, and they gravitate towards being treated the right way. And we've been able to retain most of our guys, and it's exciting because we're not having to do, we take for granted not having to teach a coach what we're trying to do. Those guys know what to do.
Right.
They know my expectation of them in practice. And if you come and watch us practice, you can see that. You can see those guys coaching their tails off every second of every practice. And it helps to have everybody in year 2. It's just such a blessing to be somewhere for the 2nd year and to really settle in and be comfortable.
Right, definitely. How about going over the roster just by position, offense, defense, and who do you expect to see where, that sort of thing? Yeah, so defensively, again, we returned 3 defensive linemen that played a ton. Really 4 if you count E.J. Colbert in that. Up front, Brody Benson, Andre Reese, Jaden Vance, and E.J. Colbert will come back as defensive line. We had some young guys step up too. Rocco and Brody Woods have come along, and I'm excited to see them. They're big, good-looking kids. One of those guys, they got the touchdown during the scrimmage.
He did.
Right?
Rocco picked the fumble up, and I was like, I didn't know if he'd know which way to run, run that thing. He's been a defensive lineman all these years, and so it's fun to see kids develop and grow. And Coach Gilbert has a lot to do with that. Inside linebacker returns 2 guys, Harrison Saunders and Tars Rudolph, that are just really, really gifted players. Big, both of them 220, 230, physical guys. Both of them had over 100 tackles last year. Kyle Butler will coach those guys. A couple of guys, Stone Phillips is moving over there to play linebacker, as is Stanton DeLoach. He was a running back last year. I saw a need for some depth there, and so we've gotten that depth now with 2 juniors, and that helps. And Luke Sparkman's in there as well. At outside linebacker, Kentavious Catlin moves down from safety to outside linebacker. He's a bruiser. He's physical and hits heavy, and he's our enforcer, so to speak. And Connor Whitley's there too. Both those guys have started a ton of football games for us. So you're talking about linebackers that have done that. Jacob Danner moved to us this year and has really been good at outside linebacker to the field. He's 6'1", 210, heavy. Yeah. We're big in there. Our box is really big, and then Shamar Washington slides down. So you're talking about really 8 linebackers that we feel good about, in there, and that's a good feeling. That's a lot of depth in there and guys that can slide around. DB, I think, is the place we'll make the most progress this year. We were pretty good up front last year, lost Micah, but pretty good up front, pretty good at inside linebacker. I didn't think we were great in our defensive backfield, had a lot of moving parts. DeRay Ferris will come in as a senior and play. He's almost 6 foot and weighs 190 pounds. That's a big corner.
Yeah.
That's a college-sized corner. He'll play the boundary side, play a lot of man coverage, can really run. He's 4'5" guy. Sheldrick Cherry is a guy that's played a ton of football. It'll be his third year starting, played boundary safety. Caden Marchbank started as a 9th grader. He'll be the field guy. Can run. I call him the honey badger. I mean, he picks a ball or creates a fumble in every game. I mean, he just is active. Tackles well in space. That's what you want from your field safety. A lot of times he'll be the single high safety, and he's got to, if he doesn't make the tackle, the guy scores.
Right.
And so, Caden's the guy that we trust to do that. And then at field corner, we still have an ongoing battle with Aubrey Jones, a guy that's been in our program, and Kevon Samuels, who is a guy that came to us and really is extremely athletic. But Aubrey has been a very consistent factor the whole time. So we're excited about our defense. We returned 11 guys that started at least a game. And that's a good feeling too. Oh, yeah. And there's a lot of depth there. So, Kyle inherits a veteran group. Last year they were not a veteran group. We lost, the year before we had lost linebackers and a lot of guys, and so we bring back a lot of veterans there. On the offensive side, we return 6 senior offensive linemen. 4 of those guys will start in game 1. We're heavy up there. We'll go about 290 up front. The youngest guy will be a battle between Jackson Blackwell and Dalton Dawkins to be starters there. And so we'll have
both those guys are huge too.
Huge. They're both 320.
Yeah.
We feel really good about both those kids. They're going to be big time players in the future.
And they're not 320 out of shape, fat linemen.
No, they're strong.
They're
They can bend and have balance, and and so we're excited about our offensive line. It's a very encouraging. We're thin. We got about 6 or 7 that could play, but that's probably as many as most 5A schools too.
Right.
At fullback, Carson Alvis moved from tackle to fullback. He's about 235. That's a good thing to have a big, heavy fullback. And then at tight end, Andre Neal has come to us. He was a kid in our school, long guy that played basketball. And I begged him, come out and play. And he came out, and he's tough, and looks good and is very athletic. At quarterback, Parker Sawyer will start Thursday night. You'll see Spencer Rosenfeld in the game as a freshman, and you'll see Avrion Berry as well. So we'll play packaging guys. We won't go crazy with playing a bunch of different, deals, but they'll have a small package, those guys, because they all 3 bring something different to the table. But at the end of that ball game, Parker will be the guy with the ball, and he's aware of that. That's not a secret. Denzel Chapman is a big inside receiver that has done a really good job for us. 6'2", 190, 10th grader. He's probably a college player. Has some tools. Anthony Harris comes back, and then Xavier Waldrop. So we feel good. We're our first 22 we feel really good about. Now we've got to go out and play.
Right.
And every team's different. And so there's still a lot of unknowns, but there's a lot of veterans. But the guys have worked their tails off, And then on top of that, our specialist, Grayson Deal comes back as a senior, and he's hitting the ball better. He's grown. Grayson was a tall, lanky kid, and he grew into his body a little bit.
Right.
Preston Reed is going to be our kicker. Has really done a good job. 4 for 4 the other day with field goals, and we felt 37-yarders, 2 of them, and we feel good about that. Harrison Saunders is our snapper, senior snapper. So there's a lot of veterans out there that make you feel good about hopefully the way Thursday goes.
And you got a lot of dynamic guys to return the ball too.
Yeah, Avrion is extremely dynamic. Xavier Waldrop is extremely dynamic. J.C. Collins, extremely dynamic. I didn't even mention the 2 running backs, Caden Shelton and J.C. And then you have Trayvon Stewart, who's a 10th grader, is going to be a really good player. So 2 senior running backs. They're going to have to carry the load for us early as Parker settles in, and all those quarterbacks that we're going to play are going to have to settle in. But we feel good about those guys, and we feel good about our offensive line.
When everybody saw Caden Shelton last year, he went over like 1,200 yards rushing, probably 400 or 500 yards receiving.
Sure.
But he's better this year.
He's better. He was nagged. He didn't finish that Coleman game that hurt us. Hurt us bad. The 2 runs previously that he had before that injury were like 11 and 16 yards. The one was a 16-yard run he got twisted up on.
Right.
And so he was starting to roll. And that's what a 210-pound back does.
Yeah.
And that meet the Vikes, now he was electric. That's the best I've seen him. It's the fastest. He's cut bad weight and has added good weight. He knows this is his last go-round. Caden's a very carefree, kind of go through the motion kid. But he's serious. He's locked in because he knows this is it, his last opportunity. And J.C. Collins has had a lot to do with that as well.
Right.
He is a thumper, a kid that matches Caden talent-wise, and Caden knows that. And so if he wants to play a lot and get the ball a lot, he better roll, and he's done that.
And Collins had 2 big runs during the scrimmage as well.
He did, and he was electric in the scrimmage, but he is a old school, hard-nosed kid.
Right.
And the other thing that JC brings to the table is being able to block and protect the passer. You know,
Right.
that's something that matters to us. You know, being able to block guys on speed sweeps and things, and then be able to pick up a blitzer. You know, JC's a heavy, strong kid, and he'll do a lot of that for us too.
All right. You mentioned Coleman's game last year. It came right down to the wire, and we lost it. Then we win 11 games in a row.
Yeah.
How much do you want that Coleman game this year?
Well, just as much as any, you know. I mean, it matters to our players and our community. You know, that one was probably the toughest one I've ever had as a head coach. That was the toughest one to swallow, you know, just because that was a great ball game, first
Right.
off. I mean, it was just a good high school football game. I think it was everything people wanted it to be, and we just didn't finish. You know, we gave it to them with 50 seconds left and had fourth down twice,
Right.
and just couldn't get them off the field, you know, and that's a credit to them. And a lot of those kids are back, those kids that won. And, you know, it just is a deal where we've got to get over that hump with Coleman. And we're aware of that. I don't think that's a secret or anything. But, you know, we've got to make it another game. We can't make it all about Coleman. This is about Jasper. And we've got to play at a high level. You know, I have a great relationship with Oscar Glasscock, their head coach, and that helps a lot too.
Right.
You know, he and I worked the North-South All-Star game together. And had a lot of fun. When you spend 5 days in a dorm with somebody, you know, you kind of get to know each other, you know. And so he's a great guy, and I know he'll have his team ready. But that's one we want to win, you know, just like the rest of them. But it would be a great momentum builder for our program.
What do you see different from Coleman this year with them getting a new coach?
Well, you know, he's a little more traditional. Oscar has been at a lot of really good programs. He's been at Hartselle, Mountain Brook. I mean, he's been at a really, really, really high level. Guys that have competed, working with Coach Godsey and Coach Yeager. I mean, that's
Right.
his pedigree's pretty good, and he's really done a good job of, you know, trying to get the weights, you know, lifting harder and heavier. You know, they had gotten to some CrossFit type stuff, and they're trying to get bigger and stronger like us.
Yeah.
I mean, the answer is to have big people. Period. I mean, weight moves weight, and we're always going to try and develop big people and feed the heck out of them and lift like crazy and lift heavy. And he's starting to do that at Coleman. And so I noticed that they're heavier, you know, and that sort of thing. And they've got two really special running backs. The Sullins kid is special, and then number 6, the fullback, is special as well. This will be the best backfield by far that we see this year.
Right.
I don't think it's close. That includes Central Clay, and these two guys. One of them's going to Navy, the other one's a Division I player. So we're going to have to tackle, and you know, there's a lot of unknowns though going into game one. Like I don't have tape or you know any of those kinds of things. I'm just aware of kind of the personnel that they have, but I know he'll do a good job in upgrading some areas that they need to.
Right. Well, we come into the season ranked number 3, and I know coaches probably don't like to talk about rankings, especially early on in the season, but that shows where we've moved the program to in just a year. Speak on that just a little
Yeah,
bit.
well, we're appreciative, you know, that people notice us. Mostly that they notice our kids, you know, for the work that they put in. I mean, kids get into that, fans get into it. As coaches, you hate to say care less, but I mean, you know, you got to get in the playoffs. You got to find a way to win in the playoffs, and that's really all that matters. You know,
Right.
Central Clay, I'm not sure if they were ranked last year or not.
Right.
One thing, you know. So it is good that people notice us, and we're grateful. But again, you know, we need to be humble and know that we haven't arrived yet. You know, what we accomplished last year was great. It was one of the greatest seasons I've ever been a part of. You know, the way that our community rallied around our program and the way that our kids played and fought and battled in all those games. To win 11 in a row, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, 11 games in a row, that's tough. I don't care who you're playing. And, you know, our kids deserve that. But again, we've not arrived at Jasper. You know, the goal is still out there. You know,
Yeah.
we've not, you know, climbed the mountain, so to
Yeah.
speak, and we've got to keep climbing.
When last season was special, how special can this team be this year?
They can be as good as they want to be. I mean, that's real. You know, if they get out there and buy in and play for each other and are coachable and dedicated, you know, our 3 words are coachable, dedication, and family. That's what our seniors set this year. And if they're all 3 of those things, they'll win every game they play. I mean, that's the way that we feel about them. But if they're not, you know, in that Coleman game last year, we made mistake after mistake. We had a punt block. We turned the ball over. We had a targeting penalty. You can't do those things. But there's about 50 other schools in 5A that would say the same thing. If they go out and buy in and do everything they're supposed to, they'll win it. You know,
Right.
But you got to be able to do those things, and very few teams really do it, especially in the hard times. You know, Coach Dye said that the other night. He said that it's easy when everything's going good, but what do you do when things break down?
Right.
And that's what we didn't do at the end last year. we didn't keep battling when things weren't going our way. When it started pouring raining in the second half of that game, we didn't keep fighting. You know, I mean, we played hard, but we didn't do all the things that we were coached to do. We didn't do the discipline things. And
Right.
that's what we've got to do. That's what's got to change this year. And if it will, then, like I said, just like in 50 other schools in Alabama, we'll have a chance to win the thing.
Right. Well, Coach, good luck coming up Coleman here in Jasper. It's going to be a huge crowd, I'm sure. It's going to be a great game and a great atmosphere. And then we'll talk to you next week and hopefully be talking about a big victory. How about that?
Yes, sir. Sounds good. Thank you, guys. This is awesome. This is a great event. Thanks, James. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Coach, for being here. And then thank you guys for tuning in. Join us each week. We'll have the Coach Bryan Moore show every week of the football season. And next week, we'll probably have a little special visitors. I think we're going to talk to the Vikings volleyball coaching staff and have them come in since you guys are going to be on a bye week next week, too.
Awesome.
All right. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.